Yes, Senator. Thank you for that response. Can you, through the speaker, can the sponsor please yield another question, please?
Sponsor continue to yield?
I'm
Sponsor
sorry.
yields.
Yes, thank you, Senator Young. The MOU for the housing development, as you know, it's unfortunate that we have hardly any vacant land in New York City. So out of the $1.9 billion that's being allocated, how are we going to build, what's the MOU for, and where would the new construction be allocated at in the largest county in the state of New York, Brooklyn, of 2.5 million people?
Mr. President, as I said, the $2.1 billion that is available through housing for capital construction projects actually would be available statewide. So if there's a list of projects that could be funded, those would be potentially included under the MOU.
Mr. Speaker, may the sponsor please use another question, please?
Senator Young, you yield to an additional question?
Yes.
Senator yields.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to ask again before the members continue to engage in conversation. There are a number of conversations that are taking place here in the chamber. I'd ask staff and members to please take those conversations outside the chamber so we can allow the two members to exchange in discussion and debate. Senator Hamilton, you may continue.
Thank you, Senator, for answering my questions. You've been very forthcoming, and I appreciate that. Senator, who will the MOU be between as far as the housing development in the County of Kings? Because I would like to be a part of that. So who would be the parties involved in the MOU for construction of housing in the largest county in New York State, County of Kings, with 2.5 million people?
So through you, Mr. President, all three entities, both houses, the governor would be involved in the negotiation.
The governor and who else? Two houses. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. Would the Speaker, Mr. President, will the Speaker yield to another question, please?
Senator Young, to yield. Senator yields.
Thank you, Senator Young. I represent beautiful Brownsville. It has the highest density of NYCHA housing in the state. It has the highest murder rate in the state. It's the pipeline to economic development in upstate New York. We have many schools where the kids are only 8% and sometimes 2.1% they're reading at grade level. I'd like to know our NYCHA housing is dilapidating in that area. I think it's being done on purposely. And so I'd like to know within the area of Brownsville, which is approximately 60,000 people, how much money is being allocated to preserve or maintain the infrastructure of NYCHA housing.
So through you, Mr. President, that would also be subject to an MOU.
Thank you to the sponsor. Mr. President, I'd like to speak on the bill.
Senator Hamilton on the bill.
I come from the borough of Kings, which I'm proud of, which is the largest county in New York State, representing 2.5 million people. There are many things in here that I don't agree with. I find it hard that within the last half hour, I have been given 677 pages to read, which I think is an insurmountable task for me to read this amount of literature within a half hour. So with due diligence, I cannot vote on the bill that I have not read. It's hard to me, even if I were to read it, to comprehend it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Mr. President, due to the fact of this untimely hour, due to the fact that I received this bill of 677 pages within a half an hour, I cannot read this. If I were to read it, I wouldn't comprehend it at this time, and I would need more than a couple of days, if not a week, to fully comprehend and digest what's actually being presented towards me tonight. So I'm not saying that this is a good bill or a bad bill, but it's a bill that I have not read, and I do not want to be negligent to my constituents, 350,000 people, and vote on something that I have not read, and vote on something that was given to me literally 1:30 in the morning. So I have to vote no on this. Thank you.
Senator Espellat.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the bill?
Senator Espellat on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, for some years, we have been discussing the housing crunch, the housing crisis affecting the city and the state of New York. In fact, that is a crisis that has been ripping neighborhoods apart. And right at the center of it is the cost of rent and affordability. We have also been very critical that the settlements that have taken place between the Attorney General's office, the New York State Attorney General's office, and the banking and financial institutions in Wall Street that engaged in risky business, resulting in a financial collapse, a close financial collapse of our economy, that the settlement money that we have gotten for several years have gone elsewhere outside of the epicenter of the housing crisis, primarily to some of the counties outside of New York City. But we are happy to see that in this budget, $600 million of that settlement money is coming towards the Division of Housing and Community Renewal for the purpose of affordable housing. And so we are hopeful that that $1.9 billion will result in the creation and the construction of affordable housing, and that when the MOU is reached between the director of the budget and the three leaders, that in fact, through that agreement, we may be able to get some funding for NYCHA. As you know, last year we allocated $100 million for the first time in over a decade to the NYCHA network of complexes that are facing a $17 billion deficit and are facing critical challenges, infrastructure and capital project challenges throughout the city of New York. So we're hopeful that when that MOU is reached, that NYCHA is given the ability to access some of this capital funding to the tune perhaps of $100 million for the next 5 years. I am also pleased to see that in the original Senate resolution, there was a $2.5 million allocation that has been traditionally included for the Hudson River Park Trust that I represent along with Senator Holman, and that in fact this was zeroed out in the resolution, but we're happy to see that this budget includes it and it was restored. For those reasons, Mr. President, I will be voting in the affirmative.
Thank you, Senator Espaillat. Senator DeLon.
Mr. President, would the sponsor yield for some questions?
Senator Young, do you yield?
Yes.
Senator yields.
Yes, Senator. These are just follow-ups to the questions I had previously asked. So first, with respect to DOT funding capital, can you give us an overview of what funds are in there for the capital budget, DOT, and also has the Commissioner provided us the project list as promised?
President, under the Department of Transportation for the fiscal year 2016 through 2021, the amount would be $27.1 billion. And
So Tony Delano was committed as executive.
so how that breaks down is there was $20.1 billion committed as of fiscal year 2017 in the executive budget, $1 billion over the next 4 years. The breakdown to be determined, $4 billion in the 6th year by fiscal year 2021, $2 billion for the Thruway Stabilization Program, which includes the Tappan Zee Bridge and Core Capital Program.
Has the project list been provided by the Commissioner?
Senator Young.
So through you, Mr. President, when the MTA, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, has the CPRB approval, that's when the list will be out.
Mr. President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Yeah.
Senator Young yields.
I was referring to the DOT capital projects list.
together,
They're linked
Senator. That's
together?
what I'm saying, yes.
Because it is my understanding that MTA has already submitted their project list, which was rejected.
Yes,
Okay. Would the sponsor yield for
Yes.
further
Sponsor
questions?
yields.
In the Senate One House bill, which both conferences supported additional funding for CHIPS, was that additional funding, is that in this budget? And also, is there funding for Pave New York and Bridge New York?
Through you, Mr. President, under the CHIPS program, which we know is very popular across the state, there's $438 million that's available. And then on top of that, through the PAVE program, there would be an additional $400 million.
So there is funding for Pave New York and Bridge New York in this budget? Is there actual funding for Pave New York and Bridge New York in this budget?
Yes, Senator, it's included within the appropriation, Mr. President.
Didn't see any language, that's why I'm asking that question. Mr. President, further question?
Senator Young, do you continue to yield?
Yes.
Yes.
With respect to the MTA capital funding, I see language where we are getting $2.9 billion, and there's some language in here which states regarding the commitment of the state of New York to fund over a multi-year period $7.3 million of capital costs related to such program. Funds appropriated herein shall be available in the event that the state elects to meet its commitment through direct payments. Can you explain that language? And who makes the determination?
So through you, Mr. President, the state has committed $7.3 billion to the MTA, and out of that amount, $2.9 billion is appropriated.
Mr. President, the question also is who makes the determination if the commitment is kept? I'll read that again. It said, funds appropriated herein shall be made available in the event that the state elects to meet its commitment through direct payments. And I need an explanation as to that and who makes the determination if the state elects.
So through you, Mr. President, it would be the executive and the Division of Budget.
Would the sponsor yield?
Yes.
For the
Sponsor
question?
yields.
So this $2.9 million, is it real money in the budget, or is it something that's put into the budget so the MTA can leverage funding on its own?
Through you, Mr. President, it's the commitment that the state plans to make to the MTA.
Okay, one further question.
Senator Young, do you yield? Senator yields.
The final question is, I would like to know if there is actual funding in this budget for the 2nd Avenue subway?
So through you, Mr. President, yes, Senator, there's a commitment through the 5-year capital plan.
About, is there a dollar amount?
That's a 5-minute. So through you, Mr. President, there's a $1.5 billion total and $535 million
It's already within the 5 years.
in the proposed plan.
On the bill?
Senator DeLon on the bill.
Yes, I would just like to thank the sponsor for her responses, and I will be voting in favor of the bill.
Thank you, Senator DeLon. Senator Kruger.
Can we all do a little gym exercise? I think we need to get our blood sugar going, our energy up. Will the sponsor please yield, Mr. President?
Yes.
Sponsor
Thank
yields.
you. Wasn't there some show years ago though where they would like take a break and they'd all do some kind of? No, I'm making it up. I think so. Jack LaLanne, maybe it was. All right, I'm
I
fine.
think, Senator Kruger, you're going to lead us in calisthenics?
If I remembered the routine, but no, I'm probably going to ask one of our younger members, perhaps who was in the military, to lead us. Wouldn't that be a good idea? Senator Croce, do you want to lead us?
Senator Young, do you yield to questions from Senator Kruger?
Regarding the budget, yes.
Okay, fine.
Not about
we'll go
cap-
back to the budget. It's 2:30 in the morning. We really could be doing something else, but fine. So the capital budget, the capital bill, adds up to how much money in this bill in total?
We'll have to check on that amount because, and we can get it to you, I believe, later tonight.
Okay. Well, I think if we look at the financial plan, which you pointed out that you gave us tonight, I think it adds up to about 11.16 billion enacted. Looking at your charts from earlier this evening. Okay. So my question was, is all of that capital within this budget bill? So would that be approximately the right number?
Through you, Mr. President, those funds that you're referencing are the capital projects that are cash in the plan, right?
Did you want to give me more of an answer? I was giving you time. No? Okay. So, you believe that this 11.166 billion, some of which is cash, is what you're saying?
Through you, Mr. President, it's all cash, it's cash financial.
So that's the cash, excuse me, Mr. President, through you. So the 11.166 billion is the cash for capital. Thank you. And then we see that the change between the, through you, Mr. President, the sponsor continues to yield.
Sponsor will
Yes.
yield, and I'll
Thank
be a little
you.
flexible here.
Thank you. So we see that the changes from the executive original proposed budget to the bills we are getting here tonight, I can find about $4 billion in new money that was added through negotiations, including over $1 billion more for the economic development UDC budget, when it going from 1.1 billion to over 2 billion. Additional monies for the MTA, as my colleague was discussing, of approximately 2.9 billion. $1 billion for the Javits Center. Where are we getting that money from? Because that's new additional capital that came in between the governor's original proposed budget and what we are looking for tonight. We know that we say we're staying within the 2% cap, so where did we find that money and what did we cut out instead?
So through you, Mr. President, the capital actually falls outside the 2% cap.
Okay, so we, through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Sponsor yields.
Okay. So when we look at the 2% cap, that doesn't include any capital money.
You're correct, Senator. No, it does not.
Thank you. That's actually very helpful. Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield. Yes. One of the items in this bill is $1 billion for expansion of the Javits Center. Who decided that we ought to spend $1 billion on the Javits Center? What process did that go through?
So through you, Mr. President, the governor had a proposal and the legislature decided to accept the governor's proposal.
Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor will continue to yield.
Yes.
Thank you. So it was a governor's proposal. Do we know, since it is located in the city of New York, does the city of New York support the $1 billion expansion of the Javits Center?
Senator, through you, Mr. President, I haven't talked to the mayor recently about such subjects, but if it were me and I were the mayor, I would support $1 billion investment in my community for sure.
On the bill, Mr. President.
Senator Kruger on the bill.
Well, I want to thank the sponsor for her answers. Capital money is a critical component of what the state ought to be spending its money on. As we've heard from some of my colleagues already, I'm very concerned about what we're deciding to spend money on and not spend money on in this capital budget. I am not confident that there is adequate funding for the 5-year plans for the MTA or the upstate transportation package. I worry that we say we'll have the money, but we're actually not really putting it in other than the first 2 years of 5, and now we're calling them sort of 6-year plans. It worries me immensely. We're not adequately putting our money into affordable housing, where we heard about $10 billion and $20 billion proposals for housing and homelessness during the State of the State, but we're not seeing anywhere near a down payment on those commitments through capital in this budget. I suppose it's a reasonable question whether it is a better use of money to spend $1 billion on a convention center that I think we've just finished rebuilding, I think to the tune of more than $500 million, and now we might have to undo that and spend another $1 billion to change it, and there's still not evidence that the city of New York or even any cities need larger convention centers. But I sure know what we could do with the $1 billion for housing or mass transit in the city of New York, as long as we seem to have an extra $1 billion to spend. It's frustrating, as one of my colleagues already said, to get a bill that's over 600 pages long, to have, I guess, perhaps from 1 a.m. till 2:30 a.m. to try to evaluate it and what's in it, to realize that $1 billion here, $1 billion there, we'll figure it out later, is the way we do our budgets in the state of New York. It's, you know, I haven't voted no on any of the budget bills this year. It's a little disturbing to me, given me. I don't think I can vote for this bill. I don't think this is the right way to spend capital money to put the state into further debt. I believe that capital infrastructure is exactly what we should be investing in, but I'm not sure we're divvying up our money correctly here, and I certainly don't think that we have evaluated the options correctly. So I'll be voting no on this bill, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kruger. Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the bill,
Senator Sanders on the bill.
back to the housing portion of this bill. I'm happy that $1.9 billion has been recouped, of course, from banks due to predatory lending and other shady mortgage practices, and many of these have gone into different settlement funds. I'm also happy that $600 million from This one settlement fund is going to the DHCR to start addressing some of the problems that have been caused and the city is plagued with, and the city and the state for that matter. But I must point out that none of this money has been targeted and returned to the people who were impoverished due to these mortgage theft is the best way to say it. None of these people have been made whole from these monies. This money is being distributed citywide for housing, yet we're not even targeting the communities that the money was generated from. The theft occurred and was concentrated in certain communities. The monies should be targeted on those particular communities. I am glad that we're dealing with some of the problems citywide and statewide, but I again urge folk that if theft occurs in a certain area, then we should target that area to make it whole. So I'm going to work with DHCR to see what we can do to create programs to target the areas that were impoverished. I want to thank the staff of the Senate Dems for, in such a short period of time, putting a lot of information into something that people can understand. I really want to thank them for getting to the gist of all of these things. And there are real problems with this budget, let us be clear. But I believe that the good in the budget so far outweighs the bad. So I will be voting in the affirmative on this particular part, as I'm going to work with the different agencies to see what we can do to make the communities whole that were impoverished thanks to the theft and plunder by the banking industry. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Seeing and hearing Senator Hoylman.
Mr. President, would the sponsor yield for a couple of questions?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. Under the New York Works Economic Development Fund, I understand the executive proposal is modified by an increase from $99 million to $199 million. Could the sponsor explain why the increase of $100 million and what that's dedicated toward?
So through you, Mr. President, basically that money was put in there because it was needed to pay back what the Solar City project had borrowed. The one in
would the sponsor continue to yield?
Sponsor yields.
So this is the Solar City project in Buffalo, and that money is $100 million dedicated toward that project exclusively?
Yes, so you may have read news reports recently where there was a little funding flow glitch, and so they borrowed the $100 million from this pot of money, and so now this restores that money back to that line.
Would the sponsor continue to yield? Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, is any of this money, the $199 million, so-called discretionary funds that, as I understand, either house has had in recent years for members? We don't call them member items any longer, but we do understand that some members have access to this kind of money.
Through you, Mr. President, actually these decisions are made by the executive, Empire State Development Corporation, and it's all controlled by the executive.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks to the sponsor for her answers.
Is there any other senator that wishes to be heard? Seeing none, hearing none, debate is closed. Secretary will ring the bell. Secretary, read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young. Relation to calendar 518, those recorded in the negative are Senators Hamilton, Kruger, and Rivera. Ayes 59, nays 3.
Bill is passed. Senator DeFrancisco.
On the next bill, calendar 519, do we have a message of necessity?
There is no message before the desk.
Yeah,
We have some order in the House, please.
So we'll wait here at 10 minutes of 3 until we get a message so we can continue the business of the state.
The Senate will stand temporarily at ease.